right, I'm working on this Craftsman Briggs Stratton Pressure washer. Actually, one of my neighbors kindly gave it to me. They don't need it anymore, and they know that I've fixed some machines for free and donated them, and so occasionally I have some neighbors who don't need a machine anymore, and they offer it to me. So it was really great. I'm very grateful for that. Anyhow, customer complaints won't start, and the last time they used it was over a year ago. And that's really common for snow blowers, generators, pressure washers, and tillers where they're not a regular use item. What's interesting is the machine I see least is leaf blowers, and I think that's because people use them in the fall, and then they occasionally use them through spring and summer after they've been mowing their grass, whereas all the other machines get less use. And so, yeah, it's a very common complaint. And basically the fuel has gone bad, spoiled. Normally it's left behind a varnish and contamination. And so you can easily prove that by removing the air filter and spraying some sort of, someone gave me this. I don't normally buy something so small like this, but anyway, starting fluid or carb spray, something like that, down the throat. And I did that, and it started up for just a few seconds and then died again. So I know it's fuel related. Compression's fine, spark's fine, otherwise that wouldn't have worked. So I thought I'll just take it apart real quick. And if this kind of thing intimidates you, then maybe this tutorial will be helpful. What makes this pressure washer a little bit different is it has a more complicated carburetor design because the fuel tank is not up top and it's not gravity feed. So if the fuel tank's up top, the fuel just drains into the carburetor through gravity. This has to have basically a fuel pump to pump it from this canister up into the machine. And that allows the machine to be a little less bulky and a little less top heavy. And that's something that manufacturers like to do sometimes. So let's get it apart. Start with this. Oh, someone's going to complain about that I should do more editing. And they are not wrong. All right, so this is, what is this, 1/4 inch? Yeah, 1/4 inch. Let's see. There's a little clip at the front. And now I'll bring you in for something a little bit closer. So basically you need to disconnect this fuel pump, fuel tank, which is just a big 12 millimeter here, 12 or 13. And then you got to just bring the whole thing away. It's a little finicky, these things. I don't really like them, but they're not too bad. Go ahead and give it a thumbs down now, since my editing skills suck and I wasn't ready with the right tools. It won't hurt my feelings. All right, so you got a big 13 right here. And then you got a couple over here. So you can, I like to loosen these a little bit. You don't have to. You can just take out the 10. Which is right here. But I like loosening it. That way this whole little bracket's loose. It makes everything a little bit easier. So now the whole thing is basically loose. You got a little elbow here from the positive crankcase ventilation. And now it's kind of a matter of being delicate and careful. You can disconnect this spring like so. And what you need to do with this little lever is you have to turn the whole carburetor 90, which is hard to do when it's still connected to the fuel tank. So you got to be real careful. I have broken these before, and what you may already be seeing is that it's very hard to move the fuel tank to the side. So there's a couple things you can do. What I normally do, since I know the carburetor needs to come out no matter what, is I'll just, right now while everything's still on the machine, I will just I'll just start to remove the carburetor, but you can do that. So basically there's just this little 90-degree thing, it fits in there. But again, a lot of times instead of taking off that bracket, I'll just unzip these Phillips because I'm taking the carburetor out anyhow. And so it has to be done, and why not do it there? So let me bring you to the bench, get my tripod extended. Sorry if that gave you vertigo. And let me zoom in. All right, so every once in a while there'll be another screw down the throat of the carburetor, down through here, and that will trip you up. In this case there was, but it was connected to the air filter. So when you remove the air filter, it comes out automatically. So now it's loose, but it's also still a little bit stiff. Basically things harden up over time. It's my lovely kids in the background. And so you can take the butt end of a screwdriver or something like that and just give it a little tap, and then it'll pop out. Now be careful as you lift this up. So the way this works, I'm not going to get into all the details, but the way this works is that basically fuel comes up this tube, and it basically gets dumped in this little pocket here. And from this little pocket is where the fuel actually goes up into the engine. And so you have this little screen, and right in there is your main jet. And the way it pumps is through this spring and this diaphragm. So carefully remove this. So this works basically like a two-stroke, where you have this big pumping diaphragm, and I don't know which one is which off the top of my head, but you have two valves. We'll call it an intake and exhaust, or exhaust and intake. I don't actually know off the top of my head, it doesn't really matter. But you get this pumping, you get this flutter from the engine, which causes this to vibrate, and you basically have two gatekeepers, the incoming gatekeeper and the outgoing gatekeeper, and that basically pumps fuel from down in here to right here. And if you look in this tank, metal tanks are nice, you know, they're durable. Everybody says plastic sucks, but the thing about metal tanks is they can rust. So you can see all kinds of debris in there. And you can also see all kinds of debris in here. Now, there is this mesh filter, which is supposed to keep things out of the carburetor, but stuff can still get in there. And to be honest, in this case, this fuel might just be bad. I don't actually know for sure that there's something in here. I just know that the machine runs perfectly off of starting fluid, and that means there's a problem with the fuel system. And when I looked in the cap and I saw the debris, I'm just gonna clean out everything. And these are relatively simple. There's that little brass guy in there that you can blow out with some carb spray. If you take this screen out, there's a jet in there that you need to clean out. And then other than that, there's really no passageways to look for. So it's a very simple carburetor. And that's in part because pressure washers just run at wide open throttle. It's not like a weed eater or a chainsaw where you use them at part throttle and wide open throttle and all of that. So I'm going to drain all this fuel, and then I'll rinse it several times with water to get all the debris dislodged and out of there. And then I'll make sure it's dry enough in there. I'll flush it with some gasoline at the end, and then we'll reassemble it. And what I'll do is, if it worked, then I will post this video. And if it didn't work, I won't post this video and you won't be seeing it. So I'm not going to show a follow-up picture video, but this is a pretty clear-cut job. I've done about 100 of these. Basically a disassemble, clean, and reassemble, no parts needed. And the lesson here is don't let your equipment sit around for a year without using it. Use it basically every 3 months or more often. All right, folks, if you didn't like that, give this a thumbs down and let me know. Go check out Steve's Small Engine Saloon. You can learn a lot from him. Or Donnie Boy 73. He's also very knowledgeable. I've learned a lot of good stuff from him. And he has better editing than me, so go enjoy that. Take care.